where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas? In this podcast, we take a deep dive into his brain and shed light on his creative process. Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
こんにちは、小島秀夫です。ポッドキャストプログラム、Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure.
Hello, I'm Hideo Kojima. Welcome again to another episode of Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure. This time, we have a special guest with us. So my partner for today is this guy, joining me all the way from Los Angeles.
Well, thank you, Hideo. I'm Jeff Keighley, producer of the Game Awards and the Jeff's Answer. And Hideo, it's always a pleasure, but this is going to be a very special episode. I'm looking forward to emceeing with you. And we have a very special guest who is video conferencing in with us today from Los Angeles, American filmmaker Jordan Peele. Let's listen in as Hideo and Jordan get to meet each other for the first time.
Jordan-san. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Hideo.
Nice to meet you, man.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry, I wish we could meet in person.
Nope.
You know, I listened to your words, right, that you said, that you put out, and I was very, I love the way you watched the film, and so you're very much an inspiration in your, you're the way you, in your movie making, in the way you bring cinema to film, to gaming. So the fact that you like it means a great deal.
Well, I love all of your movies. First Get Out, then Us, and now Nope. I was really surprised. You know, these days, Netflix, Amazon, Hollywood blockbusters, they're all basically the same. The story, the rhythm, the sound, there's really no theme to it. But Jordan, your movies are different. They have character and a theme. It's entertainment and art. Everyone's always looking forward to your next movie. With Get Out and Us, even though they're along the same lines, they're totally different. I don't mean that in just a technical sense, but also the way you show things. Like the very last scene from Nope, I've never seen anything like it. I freaked out. Making games can be hard, and there's a lot that leaves me scratching my head, but your movie gave me energy. It motivated me to work a little harder.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, I'm so incredibly emboldened by those words, because I do think so much of what I want to do is, that is inspire and to get people creating. And, to what you're saying, after Get Out, I felt a bit of a responsibility, maybe too much of a burden in some ways, because it felt like I could feel the industry shift a bit after that one. And with this story, I felt like a bit of a responsibility to put my all into a big spectacle and something that had meaning, something that was autobiographical, but stood apart from what we've seen Hollywood do too much. So just to think, look, I think our process on some level must be similar, because what you do in this masterful way is also, you take absurdity and then you ground it. And a lot of people don't realize that's the hard part. Coming up with the wild ideas, anybody can do that, but figuring out how there's a place for it in real life and grounding it, very few people can do that. That's what you're a master of.
No, but thank you. Same to you, Jordan. Movies are entertainment, so it's a pastime. A lot of people view it, so you keep it short and simple. But new creators aren't born from that. People's lives don't change from watching those. 90% of movies are like that, but the other 10% are different. And you may not realize it at first, but it stays with you, and in 5 or 10 years' time, you finally understand, and it changes your life or it motivates you. There are always movies like that in any generation. Even if it may not have been a huge hit at the beginning, it can remain with you through videotapes or revival screenings, and it travels with you through life. Those kind of movies, even after 10 or 20 years, continue to be loved, and even when technology changes, it remains inside of you like DNA. Because there are people who create works like that, there are young people who become motivated to make games or movies. I hope these people can change the world. I think movies have that kind of power. Your movies too, Jordan. Your movies in 10, 20 years. People who watch it may take action and become new creators. A positive cycle. That's the power of movies and creations as a whole. And the fact that you're doing this is amazing and intense and bold. Everyone has high expectations for you, but you don't lose to the pressure and continue to create something new. And you're incredibly successful at it, which is wonderful.
Thank you. I'm in, all I can say is I'm in a dream position. For so long, I didn't feel like I had a place as a director in this industry. And I knew in my heart that the passion was there, that so many of the elements were there, but I knew I wasn't ready. And I felt like the world may not be ready for my story. When you talk about the inspiration, I think about this period of where I think many people fall in love with movies. For me, it's 11 years old to 15 years old, where something happened and something special happened. And that's kind of the audience that I feel, even though I make what is considered an R-rated movie. It's not something a younger person can go see in the States. But I feel like that age group is kind of my target. It's the age group that gets to sneak into this movie as a guilty pleasure. And so it makes me, although I don't hear a lot from that age group, that's where my target is. I played a Metal Gear Solid 2. A character, and pardon me if you've done more with this character, but it's one that has stuck out in my mind as something of particular genius. And I think you might know who I'm talking about. It's Fortune, the character called Fortune. And I remember that being a really profound character to ever see in gaming, but it's stuck with me. In an impactful way. Somebody who wanted to die and couldn't. And that was the problem. That was the violence and the threat that they possessed was this tragic one. And so I just wanted to say how much I love that character.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you so much. Well, the idea of her came about when I was thinking about luck and how a person's degree of happiness is the same throughout one's life. Of course, there's misfortune too. But I began to think that the amount of luck in a person's life is all the same. So, Fortune, the character, has all the luck in the world while on the battlefield and ends up using all of her luck there. So, in normal day-to-day life, she is struck by misfortunes. What I wanted to say was, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who think to themselves, I'm really unhappy right now. Maybe you were born into poverty or you don't have any very nice parents. But if you think that maybe everyone's fortune level is the same, you can feel a little better. And that's why I made that character. No matter what country you were born in, what ethnicity, what household, Everyone is different, but everyone's total sum of fortune is the same. So don't give up. That's the message I wanted to convey through this character. I'm happy you asked.
Yes, fascinating. Fascinating. I found myself inspired by the curse of luck and the duality of this idea of fortune. I named my production company, I named Monkey Paw Productions, which is reference to a short story where this magical talisman grants wishes, but does it in a macabre way. Are you familiar with that story?
それ知らないんで、ちょっと教えてもらえますか？
No, sorry. I don't know that story.
It's I'll tell you very quickly, but it's basically this trinket of a monkey's paw is brought to a family from India, and as a curse or a gift. And if you make a wish, it will come true. And so the first wish they make is for $1 million. And of course, their son doesn't come home, but they get a knock on the door. They say, "Oh, your son has been killed by a carriage. We're presenting you with $1 million check, the compensation." And it clicks on like this, but this is the sort of the premise, right? And it very much relates to for me, entering the first part of my career in the industry because I was an actor, and finding a great disillusionment because my greatest dream came true and it turned out to be not what I wanted, and so, this idea of the paradox of fortune, and I think to what you're saying, the ability to shift how we see the world to empower ourselves. Fortune is a state of mind in so many ways. It's great. Can I tell you one thing that, I know you didn't want to spoil anything with the film when you spoke about No, but I would say that, I would feel comfortable saying spoiler alert. And if you had any question or anything you wanted to discuss that you felt like you couldn't, you may.
そうですね。ちょっとまだ日本はまだ。
Well, I would love to, but it only just started playing in theaters here. But Jordan, you tweeted a lot about the ending of the movie, and I almost retweeted those on multiple occasions. I had to try my hardest not to.
Good. Okay, that's good. I have respect for that. I've heard so much talk, and I have to say, you were very good at talking about it without talking about it.
いやいや、難しいですけど。
So, I said this in my podcast too, but we are currently in the age of smartphones, and everyone lives looking down. There are shoegazers, always looking at their feet. They don't look up. Our generation wasn't like that. And what makes Nope so amazing is that after you watch the movie, you most certainly look up at the sky and at the clouds. You may look up thinking, maybe there's a UFO up there. But you also realize just how vast the sky is, and it really changes how you feel. So the young folks may be looking down at their phones, but once they see Nope, they'll be shocked and look up at the sky after leaving the movie theater and understand that, oh, we are living under this sky. So the incredible thing about Nope is that it's not just a horror movie, but it's made all the people looking down look up. It's epic. I thought maybe that would be a spoiler too, so I didn't want to say too much. But that's really what I wanted to convey.
Wow. Thank you. It's very odd to, you and I, we remember a world before the phones, and it's almost hard to remember what that was like. And for a while, I thought it was worse, but now I'm almost certain I would take it, because you are so much more connected to the world around us. When I was starting this project, I was thinking, I was I was actually watching a lot of tornado videos, awe and true real life horror documented, because there's there was something about that was more connected and spectacular than almost anything I could make up. And so the sky in itself became this spectacle of all spectacles. And I wrote it in 2020. I wrote it when I was inside my house for a pandemic. We were on lockdown, and the feeling was I was in my phone. Everybody, we were all in our phone watching most god-awful, things come through this device that has become more indebted to, more that I worship more than anything else in my life, right? So that's the monetization of that obsession to this bad spectacle was what was bubbling inside me that came out in this film.
Our generation knows that when you look at the sky, you see clouds of all shapes and colors. Like, that one looks like a horse, and you create stories and make things up. Then at night, you see stars. Well, it's hard to see stars in Tokyo now, but I used to be able to see them when I was a kid. Anyways, in ancient times, people would look at the stars and they would see a bird or a crab or something and create stories. They look up at the sky and do creative things. I think that's what's important, and young people don't know it. So, for those people to go out and see Nope and learn about this importance, that's huge. Amongst the influences that movies can have, nothing like this has ever been done before, and that's really powerful. Young people may search the internet for constellations and say, oh, this one, that one, but doing that doesn't allow them to create constellations of their own. But I think that actually going out, looking up at the sky, and discovering your own shapes is the first step in creating lifelong impact.
Wonderful to hear. I was humbled by this film and the challenge of trying to honor the sky, because you can't do it. And it's acknowledged in the fabric of this idea of the impossible shot. And I think about what you're saying all the time, because the more I do, the more you beef up the craft and the visual, the more you realize how the importance of your audience's imagination, and therefore the importance of the story. And I've been doing the same thing. We're very much of like minds. I've been thinking about, the sky as the first visual, the visual accompaniment to a story, and how exciting that must have been to be in some prehistoric time, to go after a day of hunting, to go, huddle up, lay on your back, right? Look at the sky. And it's more beautiful than anything we can render, So you take that and you mix that with a powerful story, based on imparting navigational tools, and one that spans generations. It feels very much like the entertainment back then was something of real magic that we have to try to honor and try and recapture with the power of story itself.
Hideo Kojima presents Brain Stretcher.
Well, we still have so much more we could cover, but unfortunately our time with Jordan and Hideo has come to a close. But there is some good news. Next week we will continue with the second half of this interview, so please be on the lookout. Boy, it's been so fun listening to the two of these guys talk, and I can't wait to see where the conversation goes next week.
Well, we've had a great time with Jordan, but we've reached the end of this episode.
Well, Hideo, I got to say, this was really interesting to hear you and Jordan talk with each other, and it's clear you both have a lot of respect for each other. both your works and really felt like you guys had become friends through that conversation. What were your thoughts on meeting Jordan for the first time?
才能ある
I
監督
obviously knew he was a very talented director, but he's also a wonderful person. It was my first time meeting him, but I feel like we've known each other since childhood. I think we are going to be good friends.
Yes, I agree. And it's so cool to hear him talk about how Metal Gear Solid 2 influenced him. And I can't wait to see where you guys will go together. Hopefully we'll be talking again soon.
ということで、来週の秀夫小島プレゼンツ
Well, that's all for today. Please look forward to the next episode of Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure.
さよなら
Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure is a production by Spotify Studios in association with Kojima Productions and Fam Inc. TGA, the Jeff Sanser MC, Jeff Keighley. Narrator, Owen Maki. Music, Silent Poets. Visual design, Mechi Kuro. Producer, Hiro Furuki. Director, Kohei Takizawa. Executive producer at Spotify, Asami Sekine. Special thanks to Kojima Productions, Ayako Terashima, Masafumi Chiba, Miki Suga, and Aki Saito. Hosted by Hideo Kojima.
Hi, still waiting for something? Wow, that was some deep creator talk with Jordan Peele, huh? It made me want to play MGS2 again. On the next episode, we will bring you part 2 of their talk as we dive deeper into the minds of the creators. See you next week.
Where does Hideo Kojima get his ideas? In this podcast, we take a deep dive into his brain and shed light on his creative process. Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
こんにちは、小島秀夫です。ポッドキャストプログラム秀夫小島プレゼンツブレインストラクチャー
Hello, I'm Hideo Kojima. Welcome to another episode of Hideo Kojima Presents Brain Structure. Last time, we were chatting with director Jordan Peele, and this time, it is part 2 of our conversation. So my partner again for today is the one and only...
Thank you, Mr. Kojima, and hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Keighley, producer of the Game Awards and the Jeff's Answer on this podcast. And Hideo, I have to say, hearing you and Jordan talk with each other last week was so special. I didn't really say much because I could feel the bond that you had with each other, even though you were meeting for the first time, the common respect between both of you. So I'm going to continue to be a fly on the wall and listen to part 2 of this conversation between Hideo Kojima and Jordan Peele for Brain Structure.
なんか痛快ですね、こんなに。
Absolutely terrific. This was so new, and you've surpassed everyone's expectations, I think. It's not something you can do easily.
次ハードルが上がります
I think the bar has been set very high for next time, but I'm sure you can do it, Jordan.
Yes, it's a bit of a challenge, but I believe strongly that a film you allow a film to compete with itself the best you can. So, my next film, I think I'm glad to have the audience place where they really genuinely don't know where I'm going to go.
でも僕とジョーダンさんそこ似てると思うんで、
Well, I think we're a lot alike there. I try not to feel the pressure too much when I'm creating, but I use that pressure and the hurdles to my advantage in order to aim higher. Thanks to that pressure, I can get better. It's really a blessing as a creator. This isn't something that can be learned or taught. I'm really grateful. And Jordan, you're one of those special people too.
Well, thank you. I mean, you've been doing this such a high level for so long. You've maintained something, I have to say is extremely special. So, I mean, I hope I'm able to continue this path of outdoing myself and continuing to serve my audience, really. But to top myself, I'm guessing we have the same process, which is to be more vulnerable with yourself than you were last time.
そうですね。
Yeah, you're right. Jeff, do you want to jump in? I've never seen Jeff go this long without talking.
No, it's great. I love the conversation. No, but I mean, for the two of you guys to chat with each other like this is so special. And I mean, to hear, Jordan, that you were playing, MGS2 back in the day and stuff is phenomenal. Was that Hideo's first game that you remember playing?
Yes, and I've done a bit of a departure from gaming, except in sort of tourist manners. But I've been following the Empire, and just watching the quality surpass itself. I've been seeing. So I have a real connection with that game, but I don't know what to say. I'm very humble.
Thank you.
What Hideo was doing with PT, and that was a project he was doing with Guillermo that was kind of horror, but was inspired with kind of defying convention, right? And I've always thought your filmmaking style, how it could apply to sort of interactivity, right, and playing with the audience, right? And that's one thing that I think is you've gone down obviously a linear narrative path, and Hideo has done so much in the interactive space. Are you curious about thinking about how you could tell stories interactively?
Yeah, certainly with you, Hideo. I mean, yeah. I'm fascinated with the way we process story. I'm fascinated with the different methods, the immersion of the video game, and I think one of the things that I feel like Hideo does better that you do better than other people is somehow making it a film and immersive at the same time and playable. So it's sort of satisfying everything. And when I think about that, I think about it's kind of like doing what I have to do, but then you have other art forms that you also have to be mastering. It has to be the gameplay, has to be completely innovative. The visual is a completed, I very much, I love film because I can rely on the happy accidents, the things that go wrong a bit to add my beauty. Correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like in your world you have to make the happy accidents. How do you capture the magic in something where you have presumably so much control?
あります。同じように。
Yes, we do have similar happy accidents. When I'm creating something, I kind of have two personalities, like a left brain person and a right brain person. Even if it wasn't something I calculated or intentionally did, there are times when I'll realize something makes perfect logical sense down the line. Visuals too. I'll do instinctively and build up good ideas as I go. And in games, there are areas where you have to build things up through logical feedback. And I'll realize that I had done some really detailed and minute left brain decision making along the way. Those are coincidental, or what you call happy accidents, and it takes me by surprise every time. Also, in thinking about game design, I think about the possible actions that all sorts of people will make. Like player A would go this way, B would go that way, C would go back and D probably wouldn't move at all. But no matter how much I think through all the possibilities, people find a way to do something I never expected. And that discovery is so fun, and well, maybe a coincidence, but I think it's magical. So things like this can happen, and I find many surprises throughout creating a game.
Wonderful. There's, as I'm sure you agree, it's collaboration is the secret to unlock something greater than what a single entity can unlock. But there are some people who can have a conversation with themselves, and that's you. There's some people that's built a certain way, and I know you collaborate as well, but you have the ability to listen to yourself and to treat yourself like a stranger, which is ultimately an act of empathy, I believe, because what you're doing is what you're saying. You're putting yourself in the ability to remove yourself from the creator constantly. I remember a formative methodology for me in my creative. I used to draw a lot. I used to be a visual artist way more than I am now. At some point, around 18 or 19, my art almost exclusively became that weird sketching game where you sort of sketch some nonsense with one hand and then make sense of it with the other hand. And when I figured out that I started making more beautiful, interesting art than I ever had, I quickly stopped sketching. And I haven't sketched yet, but that energy and that principle of, oh my God, I can do something better in a conversation with myself than I can if it's just me.
まあ映画ってカメラの視点移動
Yeah, I think for movies, the camera positions and angles are really the best part. And I think most creators are the kind of people who are capable of doing many things. And that includes being able to switch perspectives within themselves. They can see themselves from a bird's eye view or from a micro or macro perspective. I think those kind of talented people are meant to be creators.
One of the challenges I have writing is something that I've now identified, which is I have to get to a point where I know how and why each character is me and what it means to me. Until I get to that point, I can't really write that character with the empathy that the character deserves. And so a big part of the process for me is finding myself in each of these characters, that sometimes I've started from what feel like arbitrary places.
まあジョーダンさんも
Jordan, you create such fascinating characters. And I agree, I'm the same way. But characters don't just move on their own. You have to find a part of yourself within them. Otherwise, you can't visualize them vividly. I think we're the same there.
Yes. And, with the film, as must be to an extent with character design and character creation and programming and the voicing of characters. With film, there's very much a real trust that you have to put in this one person to deliver that character. And it's a fascinating part of the process and very difficult because every actor has their own programming, has their own way that they work best. And I find it's a bit like, working with creating music. If everyone brings in an instrument you've never seen before and you still have to kind of make music, very fun. And by the way, thank you for referencing, giving a shout out to Hoyte van Hoytema, the cinematographer, in your last episode. He is a wonderful, wonderful wizard of a talent, and pushed boundaries in technology for this film. We did the for instance, the night shots were done at daytime, through this revolutionary day for night process that we developed on this project that he developed, using infrared cameras, two cameras at the same time to gather two pieces of information. So without we were able to see a space at night that we would never be able to light. And therefore it's just, a bigger night than you will see in any other movie. And learning from him and watching him really felt like, it felt like an adventure. You somehow managed to get a pirate ship together, and you got the guy who knows how to build the best damn sails, you know?
I think that followers of this method will appear. They'll see how you did it this time and try to do the same. But some will put in a lot of work to try and go beyond what's already been done. And I think that's another power that movies have. It's the same with games too. But we're limited to the technology that currently exists. So the difference lies in the work that you put in to make the impossible. And when you successfully create something, followers appear and the realm of possibility expands. This cycle is really wonderful, I think. I saw Jaws as a kid. And you know that first scene at night when the girl gets attacked? Well, in Japan, they sell movie pamphlets at the theater. And I saw that they had shot it in the daytime. They didn't have the technology to film at night back then. It was interesting, but I was more shocked than anything else. Like, so this is how they make it. And I think that's one of the things that makes movies so great. I love watching behind the scenes of movies, and obviously, Jordan, your Nope also has a lot of hidden techniques too.
Jaws was in many ways a guide in very obvious ways to this film, but the way that it was most for me as a director was recognizing that there's an element of that movie that feels scrappy, an element of that movie that feels like what it is, a director who's bitten off too big a story. And I almost wanted to put myself as much into that position or replicate it as I could. And so part of the language, the visual language of this film really is meant to feel like this is a small crew that is hanging on by dear life, just trying to capture this impossible moment that Jaws really did feel like. And you're right, that is a classic sequence you're talking about. And one of the biggest things from Jaws that I've taken into every movie I've ever done from that film, it's a masterclass in how little to show your monster. They're very simple, right? And they say he did it because he had to hide the fact that his monster wasn't working. But every director has learned from this is like less is more. And what you're saying, the audience's imagination is better than I am at creating something. So if you can use that.
You know, a movie is boring if you just show everything and end it there. It's about imagination, right? It's similar to a book. The amazing thing about Spielberg is that in Jaws, or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or Jurassic Park, his technique is to show the surprised expressions of the people. He won't show you what they're looking at. As the viewer, you want to see the thing that is surprising these people, but they won't easily show it to you. So you have to imagine. It's a very classic performance, but it was definitely shocking at first. But there are some B-class movies that Spielberg did where he doesn't show you the monster at all, even at the end. Because he didn't have the budget. But you see the monster quite a bit in the last half of Jaws. Nope really shows it too, so that was amazing.
Thank you. Well, that, the suspense and the amount that you build an audience up and make them work. Part of this film was, I still have to be up for the challenge of trying, because movies, really great movies, are up for the challenge, movies about spectacle, movies like King Kong and Jurassic Park, you know, that go this extra level in fulfilling the promise of the film. Because I did know the momentum we were generating, especially with the pace of it. And so I was very glad. One of the things I loved that you acknowledged in your talking about it is that the pace of it, there's a point where it almost feels like if it continues at this pace, we're not going to get. And I was really hoping to have the audience in the middle of the finale not knowing how it got ratcheted up so quick, not knowing how all of a sudden the payoff was there. So I'm so glad to hear the payoff work for you.
デス・ストランディングをすごいスローペースにしたんです。
I get it. You know my game, Death Stranding? I made the pacing of that really slow too. I slowly introduced the world, but there's a lot that you can't quite understand yet. Games nowadays are so high-paced. Movies on Netflix are like that too. Death Stranding was very slow-paced like Nope, and the people who were able to play past that point really enjoyed the game. There were a lot of challenges though.
Death Stranding is epically successful, and I'll play it immediately. I mean, now that I know you, I'm going to do all my catch up, and I'm excited. I'm curious about the how the question of the vulnerability and creating something as your life continues to become more abnormal and weird, creating something that continues to connect to the emotional core of everyone, you know.
So I became a creator because I liked making stuff. Well, what I really wanted to be was an astronaut. But anyways, once I started creating, I slowly started to gain fans. And they would tell me they were looking forward to my next work, or they got to where they are today because of my work. And I realized that there were people all over the world who understood me. And that changed my way of living. I used to create for myself and because it was my job, but that changed and it kind of became a way of life for me. Just like Tom Cruise said in Maverick, I could never work this hard if it was a job. It's more like a mission. I'm dedicating my life not to myself, but to someone else. I'm creating for those who are waiting for me. That's the only way I can work this hard.
Very nature you were talking about, of having to put yourself inside the player. So central to my style of filmmaking too. I'm very much, this idea that if the protagonist if we can empathize with the protagonist, if we can experience the world through their eyes, then we really do, we can learn everything about ourselves, kind of recognize a connection that happens whichever circumstances we are. So anyway, that's why I love story, and very excited to meet you, and I hope we can continue to be friends.
Same here. I love to meet in person.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Reach out when you guys are in town.
Yes, I'll go. Let's talk again soon.
はい、さてですね、名残惜しいんですけども。
With great reluctance, I must say that it is time to end the episode.
Great. That was such a special interview. I think Hideo and I have been talking a lot about this podcast and where things can go. And I thought this interview was exactly what I think this podcast can be at its best, really looking at the brain structure of Hideo and Jordan and combining their brains together to talk about their creative process. I hope all you listeners agree that this is exactly what we want brain structure to be. And it was a very fascinating conversation. So, thank you to Jordan for joining us. Thank you to Hideo for all the great insights. And I'm looking forward to more great conversations in future episodes.
ということで、来週のヒデオ・コジマプレゼンツブレインストラクチャー
Please look forward to next week's Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure.
次回もお楽しみに。さようなら。
Hideo Kojima presents Brain Structure is a production by Spotify Studios in association with Kojima Productions and Fam Inc. TGA, the Jeff's Answer MC, Jeff Keighley. Narrator, Owen Maki. Music, Silent Poets. Visual design, Mechi Kuro. Producer, Hiro Furuki. Director, Kohei Takizawa. Executive producer at Spotify, Asami Sekine. Special thanks to Kojima Productions, Ayako Terashima, Masafumi Chiba, Miki Suga, and Aki Saito. Hosted by Hideo Kojima.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Oh, you weren't waiting? 2 weeks of creative passion and insight with Jordan Peele was incredible, wasn't it? On the next episode, Hideo Kojima and his connection to music. Let's take a deep dive into his world of music. Since we can play songs on a Spotify podcast, we'll play you a few of Hideo's selections.